Oscar Kilo 1 Hotel Echo Hotel.
Okay, 1 Hotel Echo Hotel
59, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Kilo 1 Kilo.
EG1WWA Oscar Papa 59.
5-9 anche per te, 73.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Kilo 1 Whiskey Kilo.
Delta Kilo 1 Tango Kilo 59.
5 and 9, thank you.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 3, November Papa.
SSB Norway Papa 59.
Echo 59, thank you.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Quebec 2, Alpha Juliet November.
Whiskey 2 Alpha Juliet November 59.
Sierra Quebec 2, Alpha Juliet November.
Whiskey 2 Alpha Juliet November 59. Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America. Sierra Alpha 0 Oscar Alpha 59.
Also Papa 9.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 1 Hotel November.
SSB 1 Hotel November 59.
Also 5-9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 2, Kilo.
Ocean Echo 2.
November. Oscar Echo 2, Delta Oscar 5, Hotel Oscar Kilo.
Oscar Echo 2 only.
Oscar Echo 2, Oscar Golf Lima.
Ocean Echo 2 Ocean Golf Lima 59.
Thank you very much. Also 5-9.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 4, Hotel Oscar Kilo.
Delta Kilo 4 Hotel Oscar Kilo 59.
Thank you.
Delta Kilo 4 Hotel Oscar Kilo 59.
It's Delta Oscar 5, Hotel Oscar Kilo 5, HOK.
Roger, Delta Oscar 5 Hotel Oscar Kilo 59. Thank you. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Romeo 9, Fox Alpha, Trade.
Radio line Fox Alpha X-ray 59.
Plus 10 degree, 50 now, 7-3, bye-bye.
Kansas City Specific Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Italy Uniform 6, Zulu Tango.
Italy Uniform 6.
Tango Zulu Tango, you say Tango Zulu Tango.
You safety set at 59.
5-9 for you, thank you.
That's Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra November 9 Alpha Foxtrot.
Yes, Sierra Norway 9 Alpha Fox 59.
Good morning, 5-9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Italy 5.
Italy 5.
America, Florida.
Italy 5.
Kilo Sierra.
No, Italy 5.
Thank you. Italy 5, Union Kilo Sierra.
Italy 5 Uniform Kilo Sierra 59.
Ciao, grazie.
Delta Oscar 2 Mike Whiskey Sugar.
Delta Oscar 2 my Whiskey Sugar 59.
5-9 Retour, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 6,
Hotel America.
Sierra Papa 5 Echo America, Florida.
Sierra Papa 5 Echo Alpha Fox 59.
5-9, good luck.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Zulu
Oscar Zulu Station, Oscar Zulu.
Oscar Zulu 6, Papa India.
Oscar Zulu 6 Papa India 59.
5-9, thank you.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sugar Papa.
Italy United 4,
Sugar Papa.
4 Italy 1 Echo America, Yokohama. 4 India 1 Echo Alpha Yankee.
For India standby. Sierra Papa 6.
Sierra Papa 6, Kilo Bravo Uniform.
SB6 India 59. Who is it for India?
5-9, thanks.
For India.
Italy United 4 Romeo Whiskey India.
For India only, guys. Listen to me. For India. No copy. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Italy Kilo 6 Lima Bravo Tango.
Whiskey 6 Lima Bravo Tango 59.
IK6 India Kilo 6 Lima Bravo Tango 5-9, grazie.
Grazie, un abbraccio. QR dead. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Y1 Alpha.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Italy United 4.
Kilo 1, Japan. Alpha Victor. Y1 Alpha Victor.
Y1 Alpha Victor 59.
Thank you, 5-9.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 4 Italy United 4 Romeo Whiskey Italy.
Radio Whiskey India, Yoko.
India United 4 Radio Whiskey India.
EG4 Radio Whiskey India 59. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Italy Whiskey 3 Golf.
Italia Whiskey 3 Golf Zulu November 59.
5-9 Giudici, grazie, buona giornata, ciao.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
9 Alpha 3 Delta Hotel.
9 Alpha 3.
9 Alpha 3, Mike Alpha.
983 Mike Alpha 59. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Delta Hotel 1 Charlie Alpha Delta.
Delta Hotel 1 Charlie Alpha Delta 59.
Italy 1 Echo Alpha Yankee.
Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
United Sugar 1
United Sugar 1 again. United Sugar. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 6 Fox Kilo Radio.
Delta Lima 6 Fox Kilo Radio 59.
59, thank you.
Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 9, Uniform November.
Sierra Oscar, Sierra Oscar.
Sierra 7 Alpha Tango.
So 7 Alpha Tango 59.
59 secure.
Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America. Juliet Uniform Sierra, your prefix.
America 1 Foxtrot Oscar.
Juliet Uniform Sierra, your prefix.
Italia Kilo 1 Juliet Uniform Sierra. Juliet Uniform Sierra.
Italia Kilo 1 Juliet Uniform Sierra 59, grazie. Coordinate Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 9, Uniform November.
Delta Lima 9 UN 59.
Yankee Tango 2 Mike Delta Mike.
Thank you. 4 India again. 4 India. Station with 4 in the call tray again.
4 Italy 1 Echo Alpha Yankee.
4 Italy 1 Echo Alpha Yankee 59. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 9, Uniform November.
Delta Lima 9 Uniform November, you are in the lock. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 9, Uniform November.
Delta Lima 9 Uniform November, you are in the lock. 59, Roger.
Echo Alpha Yankee.
Thank you.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
November Juliet. Yankee Tango 2.
City 1 Fox Oscar Echo 59.
Grazie.
Obrigado. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 6 Yankee Delta Hotel.
Yankee Delta Hotel, your prefix.
Yankee.
Delta Lima 6 Yankee Delta Hotel.
Hotel 628 59. Delta Lima 6 Yankee Delta Hotel 59.
Thank you, 59 also.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Italian for Delta Zulu November.
Io Zero Delta Zulu November 59.
59 per te, grazie.
Grazie. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America. YT2 Mike Delta Mike 59.
Thank you.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Italy United 4 Queen Oscar Delta.
Italia Uniform 4 Quebec Oscar Delta 59.
920, grazie.
Grazie. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Oscar Mexico, Oscar Kilo 1 Echo Alpha.
OK 1 Echo Alpha 59.
Bye bye 9, thank you.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Oscar Sugar 3 Fox Oscar November.
OC3 Fox Oscar November 59.
Thank you. 59.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 with WWA. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Yankee Oscar 6 Mike Papa.
YU6 Mike Papa 59.
59, good to us, birthday. Ciao.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Hotel 5.
4 Zulu 4 4 Zulu 4.
Oscar Hotel 5.
4 Zulu 4 Charlie 4 Zulu 4.
4 Zulu 4, Charlie Hotel, Charlie America.
4 Zulu 4 Charlie Hotel 59.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Oscar Hotel again.
Zulu Mike Sierra. Italy Zulu 3 Zulu Mike Sierra.
Oscar Hotel only. Oscar Hotel.
Oscar Hotel 5 Mike November Juliet.
Ocean Henry 5 Mike Norway Georgia 59.
Roger, thank you very much. 59.
Thank you. Italy 4.
Italy 4 Papa Sugar Delta.
Italy 4 PST 59.
India Uniform 4 Papa Sierra Delta.
India Uniform 4 Papa Sierra Delta 59. Grazie. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
India Uniform 0 Sierra Romeo Hotel.
Io 0 Sierra Radio Hotel 59.
59, grazie.
Grazie. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Mexico 3 Bravo Yankee.
Ocean Mary 3 Whiskey Bravo Yankee 59.
Asia 59 para ustedes 73.
Thank you. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa to Alpha Mike.
SSB Alpha Mike 59.
Thank you, 59 for you, 27.
Thanks. Another Sierra Papa.
Sierra Papa 7 Oscar Golf India.
SSB Oscar Gold India 59.
59 also thanks.
Thank you. Italy.
Italia United 3 Bravo Tango United.
83 EU 3 Bravo Tango United 59.
59 thanks.
Grazie. Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. Italia Whiskey 6. Italia Whiskey 6.
Italia Whiskey 6, Papa Kilo Foxtrot.
Italia Whiskey 6 Papa Kilo Fox 59.
Fox United.
Echo Gold 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Radio 2 Sierra Alpha Foxtrot.
Radio 2 Sierra Alpha Fox 59.
5-9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Italia Light 5.
Italia Uniform 5.
Italia Light 5, Sierra, Fox Unite, over.
Italia Uniform 5, Sierra Fox United 5-9.
5-9, grazie.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Italia 115.
Delta Oscar 1.
Hotel Kilowatt Alpha.
Delta Oscar 1 only, guys. Delta Oscar 1.
Bravo. Oscar 1, Hotel Kilowatt Alpha. Tango Yankee.
QRX over the pilot. QRX, standby.
Delta Oscar 1, Hotel Echo Yankee. Honolulu Echo Yankee.
Roger, much better when the people listen. Be patient, guys, please. Be patient. Delta Oscar 1, Hotel Echo Yankee 5-9.
Thank you very much. 5973.
Thank you. Please, guys, listen and respect to others. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 1 Alpha Bravo Radio.
Here 1 Alpha Bravo Radio 5-9.
You're 5-9.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Oscar Kilowatt Alpha Tango Yankee.
OK 180Y 5-9. Oscar Kilo 1 Alpha Tango Yankee 5-9.
Okay, 5.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Italy Kilowatt 5, Zulu United Bravo.
Italia Kilo 5 Zulu Uniform Bravo 5-9.
Ok, 5-9, ciao, grazie.
QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
For Italy.
United November 7. United November 7.
United November 7, Delta Tango.
UN 7, Delta Tango 5-9.
Uniform 59, 73 miles.
Thank you. Who is the Philippine? For Italy. For Italy.
For Italy 1, Ecuador, America, Yokohama.
For Italy 1, Echo Alpha Yankee QSLV 4. Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Thank you very much, you're 5973.
Thanks. Echo United America. United America. United America again. No copy. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Delta Kilowatt 5, Charlie Whiskey.
K5TW 5-9.
Delta Kilowatt 5, Charlie Whiskey 5-9.
Thank you. United America. United America. United America. One more time. UA3 Oscar India Mike 5-9. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Lima 7, Charlie Hotel Radio.
UL7CHR 5-9.
Thank you, 5-9 also.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Italy Tango 9, Giulio Teco X-Ray.
Italia Tango 9, Juliet Echo X-Ray 5-9.
59, grazie mille, 73.
73 QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Sierra Papa 2, Echo Whiskey Quebec.
SSB Echo Whiskey Quebec 5-9.
5-9, thank you.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Alpha, Echo Alpha. Sierra 4 Echo Quebec Fox 5-9. Gracias. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. SB2 Tango Charlie Yankee 5-9. Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Hotel Fox 1 Echo.
Hotel Fox 1 Echo 5-9.
5-9, thank you.
Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Yankee Oscar 3, Charlie Bravo Zulu.
EG1WWA Charlie Bravo Zulu 5-9.
Ok, 5-9.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Radio 3 Tango Whiskey Tokyo 5-9. Radio 3 Tango Whiskey.
Radio 3 Delta Italy Germany.
Radio 3 Delta Italy Germany 5-9.
Roger, good afternoon, 5973.
Thank you. Radio 3 Tango Italy. Radio 3 Tango, excuse me, Radio 3 Tango Whiskey. CQ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Sugar Delta Lima 5, Delta Bravo Oscar.
Delta Lima 5.
Sugar Peter / Delta Lima 5, Delta Bravo Oscar.
Delta Florida 4 Hotel America.
QRX guys on listen. Sierra Papa / Delta Lima 5 Delta.
Delta Bravo Oscar, DBO, Dinamarca Batteria, Ontario.
Roger. Sierra Papa / DL5 DBO 5-9.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Delta Florida 4 Hotel America.
Delta Fox 4 Hotel America 5-9.
5-9 in Hamburg, all the best.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Golf, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Sugar Queen 2 Charlie Delta.
Sugar Quebec 2.
Mexico, Mexico.
SQ2, SQ2.
Sugar Queen 2, Charlie Delta Charlie 5
Alpha, Mexico, Mexico.
Sierra Quebec to Ali. Sierra Queen 2.
Sugar Queen 2, Charlie Delta Charlie.
SQ2 Charlie Delta Charlie 5 and 9.
Also 5 by 9, thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, guys, listen and respect to one another much better, okay? This is a hobby. George, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Radio 2, Hotel Italy.
Radio 2, Hotel Italy.
Okay, 5-9, thank you.
Your call, Radio 2, Hotel.
Radio 2, Henry, Italy.
Roger, Radio 2, Henry, Italy, 5 and 9, thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Sierra Papa 1.
Sierra 5, Charlie Tango Whiskey.
SSB 5 and 9.
Go, Mexico.
Sierra 5, 6, Charlie Tango Whiskey, 5 and 9.
Thank you. 592, bye-bye.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Sierra Papa 1, Radio Kilo Tango.
SB1, Radio Kilo Tango, 5 and
5-9, thank you.
9. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Delta Oscar 5, Hotel Oscar Kilo.
Delta Oscar 5 Hotel.
Delta Oscar 5, Hotel Oscar Kilo.
U58, okay, 5 and 9, Q34. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Oscar Hotel 2, Bravo Yankee.
Oscar Hotel 2, DY, 5 and 9.
59, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, WWA.
Oscar Zulu 4, Alpha, Mexico.
Oscar Zulu again.
Oscar Zulu 5, United Ocean. Oscar Zulu 5, United Ocean.
Ocean 5, UO, 5 and 9.
Thank you. You are 5 and 9. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Oscar Mike 0, Alpha, Bravo, Alpha.
Ocean Mary 0, Alpha, Bravo, Alpha, 5 and 9.
5-9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Tango Alpha 0, Alpha Charlie Lima.
Tango Alpha 0, Alpha, Charlie Lima, 5 and 9.
5-9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Lima Yankee 1, Bravo, Zulu.
Airway 1, Bravo, Zulu, 5 and 9.
Thank you, copy 9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Yankee Oscar 3, X-Ray Lima.
Yankee Oscar 3 again.
Yankee Oscar 3, India X-Ray Lima, Italy X-Ray London.
YU3, India X-Ray Lima, 5 and 9. Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Again. QNX Europe. Anybody else outside Europe? Outside Europe. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Radio Whiskey 9, Uniform Bravo.
Radio W9, Uniform Bravo, 5 and 9.
Roger 5 and 9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Italia solo 7, Delta Tango, Giappana.
De Italia solo 7, Delta Tango, Giulia 59.
59, grazie, ciao ciao.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Oscar Echo 6, Juliet Oscar Delta.
We 6 AOD, 5 and 9. Oscar Echo 6, Juliet Oscar Delta, 5 and 9.
Thank you for 5 and 9, also 5 and 9.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Yes, Delta Kilo 1, 0, Juliet.
Delta Kilo 1, Sierra Juliet, 5 and 9. Delta Kilo 1, Sierra Juliet, 5 and 9.
5 and 9, also good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
Lima Zulu 1, Mike November Whiskey.
Lima Zulu 1, My Norway, Whiskey, 5 and 9.
59, bye-bye.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Tango Golf Whiskey again. Radio America 3, Tango Golf Whiskey, 5 and 9. Thank you, Florida 4, Julia Delta Whiskey, 59. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. November, Italy. November, Italy, Bravo, 5 and 9. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. CQ 10 years, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha.
United Norway 8, Papa Tango.
United Norway, Papa Tango, 5 and 9.
Thank you, 5-9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America.
Sierra Papa 5, Victor Yankee, Florida.
SSB 5, Victor Yankee, Florida, 5 and 9.
59 also, thank
Thanks, keyword it.
Sierra Papa 7, Uniform Tango Papa.
Whiskey 7, Uniform Tango Papa 5 and 9.
Roger, Roger, keeping my good luck.
Thanks, Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta,
Delta, Delta 1.
Delta, Delta 1.
Delta, Delta 1, Sierra Bravo 5 and 9.
Thank you very much. You also 5 and 9.
Thanks, Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Bravo 2 of Juliet.
Delta Bravo 2, Delta Bravo 2, Ollie.
Also Delta Bravo 2 Oscar Japan. You're 5 and 9 plus 20.
Delta Bravo 2, Ocean Japan 5 and 9, thank you. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
You copy me,
Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Zulu 2 X-ray Alpha.
Lima Zulu 2, X-ray Alpha 5 and 9.
Lima Zulu 2
You copy me, I am Delta Kilo Delta from Italy, south of Italy.
Shut up, Delta Kilo Delta. Wait a moment, please. Stand by. Delta Lima Zulu 2, X-ray America 5 and 9.
Lima Zulu 2 X-ray Alpha.
Lima Zulu 2, Echo Alpha 5 and 9, thank you. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio Kilo QOP.
Radio Kilo 0 again.
Delta Hotel 7 Radio Kilowatt QOP.
Radio Kilo 0.
Delta Hotel 7 Radio Kilowatt QOP.
Delta Hotel 7, Radio Kilo 5 and 9.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thanks, Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. EA 7 Gold Victor. Echo Alpha 7 Gold Victor. Negativo, Echo Alpha 7 Gold Victor. EA 7 Gold Victor X-ray 59, gracias. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 3 Fox Radio Papa.
Yankee Oscar 5 Radio Papa 5 and 9.
Thank you, 5-9 also.
Thank you. Delta Hotel.
Tango Papa 73, good luck.
Delta Hotel, Delta Hotel.
Delta Oscar 3 Fox Radio Hotel.
Yeah, Delta Oscar 3 Fox Radio Hotel 5 and 9.
Fox Radio Hotel, QSL.
Delta Oscar 3 Fox Radio Hotel 5 and 9.
Okay, 5 and 9. Thank you, 73.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Oscar Echo 3, Victor Echo Tango.
Ocean Echo 3, Victor Echo Tango 5 and 9.
QSL 59, Dvacas.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Zulu 2.
Lima Zulu 2 only. Lima Zulu 2.
Lima Zulu 2 Germany Sierra. Lima Zulu 2 Germany Sierra.
This is 2GF 5 and 9.
5-9, thank you.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 2 Lima Radio.
This is 2 Lima Radio 59.
Thank you very much for the 5-9. Goodbye, good luck.
Thanks. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa number 2 Mike, Sierra Mike.
SP2 Mike, Sierra Mike 5 and 9. Thanks. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. A ver cómo llueve. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. QRZ, Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 5 Alpha November Mexico.
DL5 Alpha Norway Mike 5 and 9.
Roger, Roger. Good morning. Report 5959 plus here in Germany. 7 to 3. Good luck.
Thank you. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America.
Yankee
Yankee Tango, Yankee Tango.
Tango 2 Victoria Papa.
YT2 Victor Papa 59. Thank you. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Sierra Papa again. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Gold 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha, Echo Alpha.
Uniform Juliet.
Ya 3 Fox Uniform Julia, 5-9.
Eco Alpha. Foxtrot Uniform Juliet. 5-9 aquí.
Gracias. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
November Whiskey.
Sugar Lima again.
November Whiskey.
November Whiskey.
Sugar Lima only. Sugar Lima, please. No copy. November Whiskey, your time now.
Italy Tango 9, Romeo, November Whiskey, 5-9 in Sicily Island, compliment.
19 Radio November Whiskey, 5-9, grazie. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Sierra Papa 9 again. Sorry, Sierra Papa 9, you are not on my frequency. Look for my frequency exactly on 477.0. Hard difficult, you are weak signals and a lot of pileup. Sierra Papa 9, still your call one time more.
Sierra Papa 9, Victor, November, Lima.
Roger, SP9, Victor Norway Lima, 5-9. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Echo Sierra 2, Radio Alpha X-Ray.
Beautiful call, Echo Sierra 2, Radio Alpha X-Ray, 5-9.
5-9, 10-73.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Italia Whiskey 6. Italia Whiskey 6, Papa Kilo Fox. Question anterior, 5-9, grazie. Who is the Germany? Thank you. Who is the Germany? No copy. Incoming station. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. CQ down.
9 Hotel 1, Juliet, Quebec.
9 Henry 1, Julia Queen 5-9.
QS says about Ocean 5-9.
Thanks. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Germany, Queen Zulu.
Germany Queen Zulu, your full call.
India, Zulu 8. Germany, Queen Zulu, 5-9, 59.
Visita Auto Golf Quebec Zulu 5-9, gracias.
Gracias, Tito.
Germania de no llamar con el indicativo completo. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Radio Uniform something Alpha Golf Tango. What number? Roger, Radio United 0, Alpha Golf Tango, 5-9. Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 7, Juliet, Papa Hotel.
Delta Lima 7, Julia Papa Hotel, 5-9.
Thank you, 5-9, 73.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Sierra Papa 9, Bravo Echo.
Sierra Papa 9, Juliet, Bravo Echo.
SP9, Julia Bravo Echo, 5-9.
Roger, Al 5-9, good night.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Bravo Whiskey.
Okay, 2DYW, 5-9.
Roger 5-9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Sierra Papa 4, Japan Zulu.
SP4, Japan Zulu, 59.
59, grazie, ciao.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. 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 Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Echo Sugar 3, Kilo Yankee Romeo.
Echo Sugar 3, Kilo Yankee Radio, 5-9.
Roger, you are also 5-9, over.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. 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 Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha, just now to the south. Beaming to the south. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Mike 6 Oscar Papa X-ray.
This is 6 Oscar Papa X-ray 5 and 9.
Yes, 5 by 9, 5 by 9, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Foxtrot 2, Hotel Papa.
Delta Fox 2 Hotel Mike 5 and 9.
It's Hotel Papa. Now with Mike, Delta Mike.
82 Mike Delta Mike USW 4 5 and 9.
Fine, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Foxtrot 2, Hotel Papa.
Delta Fox 2 Hotel Papa 59.
Yours is 59.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Delta Hotel 8, Whiskey Germany.
Delta Hotel 8, Whiskey Germany 5 and 9.
5 and also, thank you, Sentry.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America.
Yes, November.
Ending November.
Oscar Kilowatt 1, Victor, Juliet, November.
Okay, 1BJM 5 and 9.
5 9 for this James.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Yankee Delta. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Alpha 2, Echo Alpha 2. EA2 Yankee Delta. EA2 Whiskey Delta, ¿correcto? 59, buen día. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha 1, Echo Alpha 1. No, Echo Alpha 1, Echo Alpha 1. Echo Alpha 1 Delta, Echo Alpha 1 Delta. EA1 Delta Golf November 59. Echo Alpha 1 Delta Golf November. Echo Alpha 1 Delta Golf November 59. Saludos. La otra estación Echo Alpha 1, adelante. CQ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Lima 2, Lima Victor Mike.
Delta Lima 2, Lima Victor Mike 59.
Good morning, 5-9 also, bye-bye.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 5, Lima Juliet Mike.
Ocean Echo 5, Lima Juliet Mike 59.
Also 5-9, thank you.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Germany 1, Hotel Uniform Queen.
Delta Germany 1, Hotel Uniform Queen 59. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Lima 2, Juliet Papa November.
EL2 JPL 5 and 9.
Good morning, 5 and 9 for you, good luck.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
7 Sierra Lima Oscar.
SSB Sierra Lima Oscar 5 and 9.
5 9, good luck.
Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Uniform Radio 5, Italy Radio Mike.
United Radio 5, Italy Radio Mike 5 and 9.
Thank you, 5 9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. The Sierra Papa 6 again. Roger, SP6 Uniform Victor Uniform 5 and 9. Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Yankee United 7, Germany, Washington, Golf Whiskey.
YU7 Golf Whiskey 5 and 9.
Yeah, well, signal, 5 and 9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 1, Alpha Kilo Bravo.
Sierra Papa 1 Alpha.
Alpha Kilo Bravo.
SP1 AKB 5 and 9.
5 Bravo 4, Alpha, Mexico.
5 Bravo 4 Alpha Mike 5 and 9.
Flash and nice day.
5
5 and 9, 59. This is 5 Bravo 4, Alpha, Mexico, thanks.
Roger, 5 Alpha, Mike, 5 and 9. Sierra Papa 1 Alpha Kilo Bravo, also 59. QRZ, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Zulu 2 Lima.
Oscar Zulu 2 Lima.
Oscar Zulu 2 Lima Pacific.
Ocean 2 Lima Papa, 59.
Also 5 and 9, thank you.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Italy Victoria 3 Alfa Papa.
AB3 Japan Alpha Papa 59.
Ok, grazie, 5-9, ciao.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
United Charlie for Yankee.
United Charlie 4 Yankee 5 and 9.
Thank you all for your 5 and 9. Good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Italia Tango 9 Alpha Quebec. Italia Tango 9 Alpha Queen Japan 59. Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Italy Tango 9, Foxtrot Indiana, Quebec.
Italia Tango 9 Fox India Quebec 5 and 9.
5 by 9, 7 3 by.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 1 to Mike.
Delta Oscar 1 Zulu Mike 5 and 9.
Also 5 and 9, 73.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Yankee again. QRZ, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. Lima Zulu 1 Kilo. Lima Zulu 1 Kilo. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Sugar. Echo Sugar 5. Echo Sugar 5 Foxtrot Delta, Roger. Also 59, thank you. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Echo Alpha 7 India Kilo Echo.
Ya 7 India Kilo Echo 59. Ya 7 India Kilo Echo 59. Gracias, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey American. Echo Alpha 2. Echo Alpha 2 Sierra Papa. Y a 2 Echo Sierra Papa 59. Gracias, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Quebec 9, Alpha Tango Kilo.
Rescue 980K 5 and 9.
5973.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Mike 7 Kilo Delta Yankee.
MM7 KDY 5 and 9. Mike 7 Kilo Delta Yankee 5 and 9.
You're also 5 and 9, 5 and 10.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Delta Lima 2 Queen America.
Delta Lima 2 Queen America 5 and 9.
Good afternoon. Good morning. You're 59 as well, 73.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 6, Echo November Delta.
Ocean Echo 6 Echo Norway Delta 59.
Roger, 59 plus 20, 73, good luck.
Thank you. Who is the Oscar Hotel?
Oscar Hotel 1, Charlie Kilo Zulu, over.
Ocean Henry 1 Charlie Kilo Zulu 5 and 9. Hey, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Sugar Papa 7, Mike Oscar Charlie.
57 Mike Oscar Charlie 5 and 9.
59, grazie.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Zulu 6, Papa India.
Ocean 6 Papa India 5 and 9 QS34. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Sierra Papa 5.
Radio 6. United Radio 6 Italy Kilo 5 and 9. Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey America.
Sierra Papa 4, Lima Victor Germany.
SSB LDG 5 and 9.
Okay, thank you very much. You're also 5 and 9.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Lima Yankee 1 Kilo 5 and 9. Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha 3. Echo Alpha 3. EA3 Bravo Lima 59 Pérez. EA3 Bravo Lima 59. Saludos Pérez. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Alpha.
Juliet 1 Juliet.
Ending Juliet.
Uniform Alpha 9, Mike, Quebec, Juliet.
UA9 Mike Queen Juliet 509.
509, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sugar 5-1 Victor India.
Cisco 51 Victor India 59.
Thank you very much, 5973.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Do you have radio 4 for whiskey?
United Radio 4 Whiskey 509.
Do you have radio 4 for whiskey?
United Radio 4 Whiskey 509.
5973.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 5.
Sierra Papa 5 full count please. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey America.
Sierra Papa 5. Echo Hotel Romeo. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. 5-5. Thank you.
SB5 Echo Hotel Radio 509. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Florida 4, November.
Florida 4 November.
Florida 4, Juliet, November.
Florida 4 Juliet November.
Juliet, November, Papa. Juliet, November, Papa.
Box 4 Juliet Norway Papa 509. Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Golf 2 Mike Whiskey.
Delta Golf 2 MW 509.
Nice to meet you, 5-9, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Quebec 2, Alpha Juliet November.
Whiskey 2 Alpha Juliet November QSW 4 509. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Good luck.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Lima 2 Sierra Charlie.
Delta Lima 2 Sierra Charlie 59.
Auto 5973, bye-bye.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 2, Papa Hotel Alpha.
SB2 Papa Hotel Alpha 59.
59, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. Sierra Quebec 9 India Victor Delta 509. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 3, Bravo, Victor India.
SB3 Bravo Victor India 509.
Friday also select.
Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. CQ10 Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Radio 4 Whiskey.
Delta Radio 4 Whiskey 509.
59 plus 20. Is my modulation okay?
It's perfectly, no touch anything, it's good.
Thanks a lot. Gracias.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 2 Romeo Papa Lima.
Ocean Echo 2 Radio Papa Lima 509.
You also 5-9, thank you, 73.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Bravo 7 Lima Juliet.
37 Lima Juliet 509.
Thank you, 5973.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Uniform Delta Queen Echo
United Alpha.
United Bravo. Quebec 59.
Delta Quebec, United Alpha Samkin Delta Quebec, your call again.
Sierra Yankee 1, Delta Quebec Echo QSL.
No, please stand by and listen to me, guys. I am calling United Alpha. United America, go.
United America 0, Whiskey Delta Quebec.
Roger, United America 0, Whiskey Delta Quebec 509.
59 also.
Thank you, degree Sierra Yankee.
Sierra Yankee number 1, Delta Quebec Echo QSL.
Roger, SY1 Delta Queen Echo 509, Calispera.
Calispera.
Aristopolis, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Whiskey America.
Lima Zulu 2, Whiskey Yankee.
Juliet Yankee Yankee.
Lima Zulu 2, Whiskey Yankee.
LC2 Whiskey Yankee Yankee 509.
Roger, thank you, 73.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. Delta Alpha. Radio 5 Delta America 509. Thank you, Echo 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 1 Papa 4 Charlie.
Ocean Echo 1 Papa from Charlie 59.
Take care, boss. Archer 50 anywhere. Thank you.
Thanks, Echo 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
United Tango 2, United Bravo.
UT2 United Bravo 509.
59, good luck.
Thanks, Echo 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha.
Mike 3 Alpha Whiskey Alpha.
MM3 AWA 509.
Thank you, 59 plus, good luck.
Thank you, Echo 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. Oscar Hotel A November. Oscar Hotel A Julia Delta 509. Oscar Hotel A Juliet Victoria 509. Thank you, Echo 1 Whiskey Whiskey Alpha. QRX, guys. QRX, Max ring, a lot of polling on the antenna. Please stand by. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Italy Uniform 3, Quebec Uniform X-Ray.
U3 Quebec Uniform X-Ray 59.
59 partenza, grazie.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Italia Uniform 0. Negativo, Italia Uniform 0. Italia Uniform 0, Oscar Tango Foxtrot 59. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 3, Papa Whiskey.
Radio 3, Papa Whiskey 59.
59, thank you, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha 2, Delta November. Echo Alpha 2, Delta November. Echo Alpha 2, DNA. Mario, Echo Alpha 2, Delta November Alpha. Negativo, Echo Alpha. Echo Alpha. Negative, QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Please, gentlemen, launch the full call signs. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Alpha 2, Alpha November Alpha. Echo Alpha 2, Alpha November Alpha. Roger. Echo Alpha 6, Baleares. Roger. 59, gracias, buen día. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Hotel Alpha 2, Tango Sugar 59.
Thank you, the 5 and 9 also 73.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
9 Alpha 3 Kilo Golf.
9 Alpha 3 Kilo Golf, 5 and 9.
Thank you, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Echo Alpha 8, Echo Alpha 8. United Yankee 1, Quebec Yankee 5 and 9. United Yankee 9, Quebec Yankee 5 and 9. Thank you, Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. Negative, QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Kilo 1, Hotel Bravo, Oscar.
Okay, 1 Hotel Bravo, Oscar 5 and 9.
Roger, yeah, also 59, thank you.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 4, Charlie Alpha Lima.
Radio 4, Charlie Alpha Lima 5 and 9.
59, thank you, please, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Oscar.
United Whiskey 5, Echo Oscar.
UW5, Echo Oscar 5 and 9.
9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 2, Hotel Quebec Sierra.
Delta Oscar 2, Hotel Quebec Sierra 5 and 9.
59, muchas gracias.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
6 Union Echo Kilowatt.
UA6 Union Echo Kilo 5 and 9.
5 and 9 also good.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Alpha 8, Echo Alpha 8. Echo Alpha 8. No, negativo. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Victor 1, Fox, Juliet Fox.
Whiskey 1, Fox, Juliet Fox 5 and 9.
Sierra Victor 1, Fox, Japan Fox 5 9, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Bravo 5, Romeo Echo.
LB5 Radio Echo 5 and 9.
Yeah, LB5 Radio Echo 5-9, thank you. Don't please good luck.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha.
Yankee United 1, Victor Golf.
Way 1, Victor Golf 5 and 9.
Roger, 5 9.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey Alpha. Italia Zulu 0, Radio Delta Mike 59.
Italia Kilo 0, Radio Delta Mike 59.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Echo 74, Mike Golf.
Echo 74, Mike Golf 59.
592, good work.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 4.
Delta Lima 2, Kilo Uniform, Quebec.
Delta Lima 2, Kilo Uniform Quebec 59. Delta Lima 2, Radio, Kilo Uniform Quebec. Delta Lima 2, Kilo Uniform Quebec 59.
We're also 509, thanks for the short Uso, 73.
Thanks, Radio 4, Radio 4.
Radio 4. Radio Quebec.
Radio 4, Radio Quebec 59.
Roger 59. Thank you.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 7 Golf Radio Victor.
SSB Golf Radio Victor 59.
59 also, thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Queen 6, Sierra Golf Tango.
Sierra Queen 6, Sierra Golf Tango 59.
Alpha, Sierra Queen 6, Sierra Golf Tango 59.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo, Delta Lima 9, Kilo Bravo.
Ocean Echo Left DL 9, Kilo Bravo 59.
Thank you, Alpha 59.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Alpha 3 Zulu Echo Alpha.
LA 3 Zulu Echo Alpha 59.
Thank you, you also 59.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. And number 8. Oscar Hotel 8. Oscar Hotel 8, Golf Bravo Oscar 59. Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Echo Sugar 2, Delta Radio 59. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. HA5 Bravo Delta Oscar 59.
Good morning, 5976.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Radio, Sierra Radio.
Sierra Radio, full count left. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Radio.
Sierra Radio, full count left.
Italy Kilo 8, Whiskey Sugar Radio 59.
Italia Kilo 8, Whiskey Sierra Radio 59, grazie. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Kilo 1, X-Ray, Zulu, Sierra.
Okay, 1 X-Ray Zulu Sierra 59.
5976.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 1, Whiskey, November, Ontario.
SSB1WNO 59.
CQ 59.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 3 Charlie Golf Radio.
SSB3 Charlie Golf Radio 59.
59, thank you, 7.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Italia Uniform 0, Oscar Tango Foxtrot, QSLB 479. Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Alpha 1, Kilo Echo Alpha.
Lima Alpha 1, Kilo Echo Alpha 59.
Okay, thank you, 59.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
India Victor 3 Kilo Quebec Kilo.
Italia Victor 3 Kilo, Quebec Kilo 59.
Muchas gracias, 59.
Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 9 Golf Hotel.
SB9 Golf Hotel 5 9.
Okay, 59, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 1, Charlie Hotel Golf.
Delta Oscar 1, Charlie Hotel Golf 5 9.
Delta 59, thanks.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Yankee Oscar 6 Papa November Queen.
Sierra Papa.
YU 6 Papa Norway Queen 5 9.
Thank you for the 59, also pedestrian.
Thank you, the Sierra Papa.
Sierra Papa 8 American Radio Yankee.
SB8 Alpha Radio Yankee 5 9.
Good morning, 59. Good luck, molto bene, grazie.
Nice to see you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey America. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Zulu Papa. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 4, Sierra Tango Sierra.
Delta Oscar 4, Sierra Tango Sierra 5 9.
You also 73.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Zulu 2 Sierra Tango Zulu.
Lima Zulu 2, Sierra Tango Zulu 5 9.
5973.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Golf 2 Kilo Whiskey.
Delta Golf 2 KW 5 9. Delta Golf 2 Kilo Whiskey 5 9.
Yes, Delta Golf 2 Kilo Whiskey 5 9 for you. 73, thank you.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Papa United.
Papa United G2, Yankee Bravo Whiskey.
YouTube, Yankee Bravo Whiskey 59.
Ok, gracias, 59.
Papa Uniform 2, Yankee Bravo Whiskey, correto?
Roger, TSL 59 para ti.
Ok, obrigado. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Mike 0, Charlie India Victoria QRP.
Sierra Mike 0, Charlie India Victor QRP 5 9.
And you also 5 9.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
United Romeo 5 Florida Echo Ontario.
UR 5 Fox Echo Oscar 5 9.
Thank you very much. 59, good luck.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha, CQ10. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
United Romeo 0 Florida, Florida.
UR 0 Fox Fox 5 9.
Roger, 59.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Oscar Echo 7 Hotel Mike India.
Ocean Echo 7, Hotel Mike India 5 9.
5 9, many thanks.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Italia, Italia 4, Echo. QRZ, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Fox 4 Echo Zulu Junior 5 9. Good morning, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Italia Kilo 4, Alfa Delta Echo 59. Grazie, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Sierra Papa 9 Charlie Alpha Lima.
SB9 Charlie Alpha Lima 59.
Thank you, 59 also.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. And Delta Mike. And number 2, Delta Mike. And number 2, Sierra Mike again. Two-week, number 2, Sierra Mike again. No copy, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha, CQ10. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Lima Yankee 2, Oscar United.
Lima Yankee 2, Oscar United, 589.
Good afternoon, 59, thank you.
Thanks, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey, America. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 EG1 Delta Papa 59. EG1 Delta Papa 59. Eco Alfa 4, Eco Alfa 4. EG4 Hotel Tango Alfa 59. 73. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha, CQ10. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Anybody else? Ahora, EG8 Charlie Whiskey Alpha 59. Están muy malas condiciones, Alexis. Muy mal, muy mal. Chao, chao, Alexis. Anybody else? Give me a south. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 9, Yankee Delta Charlie.
Radio 9, Yankee Delta Charlie, 59.
Thank you, 59, goodbye.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Delta Oscar 5, Foxtrot Papa.
Delta Oscar 5, Fox Papa, 59.
Also 5 and 9.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Italy Whiskey 8 Radio Papa Quebec.
Italy Whiskey 8 Radio Papa Quebec, 59.
59, grazie, ciao.
Grazie. Echo Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
SQ5 November Whiskey Alpha.
SQ5 November Whiskey Alpha, 59. Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
United Alpha 663 Kilo.
United Alpha 663 Kilo, fly the 9.
Repetition 9, my friend, 73.
Thank you. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Sierra Victor 1, Bravo. Sierra Victoria 1, Bravo. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. SB1, Bravo, Mexico Queen, fly the 9. Espera, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.
Radio 4, Hotel.
Radio 4, Hotel, Italy, Italy, 5-9.
Thank you, 5-9. Good luck, 7-3.
73, спасибо. Radio Alpha.
Radio Alpha 3, Kilowatt Alpha.
Radio Alpha 3 Kilowatt Alpha, 5-9.
Roger, 59, good luck.
Thank you, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. 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 Echo Alpha 8 Delta.
Delta Eco Eco, Delta Eco Eco.
8 Delta Echo Echo 59.
59, gracias, buenas tardes.
Gracias. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. CQ10, Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha. Echo Golf 1, Whiskey, Whiskey Alpha.